Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the Off the Bench podcast. My name is Robert Sellers. I'm recording this on Wednesday night after an amazing, wild, crazy night of college basketball. So much random stuff happened tonight. Of course, A&M Alabama was a great game, went down to the wire, 197. I remember seeing that there were 28 lead changes in that game, and then like 79 attempted three-pointers, which set an SEC regulation time record, which is nuts. That game was crazy. Aiden Holloway made a crazy shot at the end of that game to give the Crimson Tide their first victory in a minute. So that was nuts. Michigan State went down on the road at Minnesota. Minnesota was on a 7-game losing streak at the time, I'm pretty sure. And Michigan State lost that game. They have now lost 2 in a row. And even the game before that against Rutgers, they really struggled. So Michigan State is not looking great at all. But the biggest story of the night, the big-time shocker, the head-turner, was that Gonzaga went on the road and lost to Portland. 11-14 Portland just took down the one-loss, 6th-ranked Gonzaga Bulldogs. A crazy outcome, just an absolutely wild, wild game that Gonzaga went down to Portland. Just a weird Wednesday night in college basketball. It was a lot of fun, but tonight we're not going to focus on that too much. We're going to focus on previewing the weekend. We're going to look at Friday night games and all day Saturday. Those games should be phenomenal. It's going to be a really fun weekend. Most of the sports world right now, they are on Super Bowl weekend. That's what it is to them. It is Super Bowl weekend. Everyone's prepping their Super Bowl parties, picking their picks, whether it's Seahawks, Patriots, and that's what they're talking about. But to the true college basketball fans, to those who really care about what's going on in the hardwood and not the gridiron, know this weekend as Duke UNC basketball weekend. That is exactly what it is. The Blue Devils are on the road to Chapel Hill to take on North Carolina. This should be an amazing game. 4th-ranked Duke against 14th-ranked North Carolina. I cannot wait to watch this game. It's 5:30 Central Time, 6:30 local time over there in Chapel Hill. Duke has won 3 in a row against the North Carolina Tar Heels, dating back to last season, where they beat them thrice in Chapel Hill, in Durham, and then in Charlotte in the NCAA or the ACC championship game. So Duke's had UNC's number the last few times these teams have met. But this is a new season. These are new teams. These are new rosters with new momentum as well. Duke has as much momentum as almost anybody in the country. They've won 10 games in a row. The only game that they dropped was in New York against Texas Tech, a game that arguably they should have won, and they sort of lost it at the end due to a surge from Christian Anderson. But given that that's their only loss, Duke has not lost a true road game this entire season, nor have they lost a true home game. And this is a true road game. So Duke undefeated on the road, but the North Carolina Tar Heels are undefeated at home this year. So something's going to have to give. Either Duke loses their first road game of the year, or North Carolina loses their first home game of the year. North Carolina is also hot. They've won 4 in a row. They've looked phenomenal. I remember after their most recent loss, I was down on the Tar Heels. I was saying this is an overrated team. They're not going to be great. They're sort of buried in the standings of the ACC at that time. And that was proved completely wrong. They won a big game against Virginia, and they've sort of used that to catapult themselves on a 4-game win streak to set this game up to be a top 15 matchup. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited about it. And, of course, all the talk around this game is about Cam Boozer and Caleb Wilson, and rightfully so. I mean, they're 2 of the top 5 NBA prospects in this upcoming draft, however way you slice it. They're both playing the same position. They're both playing power forward. Cam Boozer plays a lot at center. Caleb Wilson sometimes plays a stretch 3. But basically, they're the same position. They're both super highly recruited guys. And they're both having amazing, amazing seasons. And they're part of the reason why this freshman class is so dominant. And, I mean, rightfully so. The conversation around these 2 guys is there for a reason. Cam Boozer is such a winner. When you watch Cam Boozer, his athleticism doesn't jump out at you. You don't watch him and say, wow, this guy's an amazing shooter. He's going to carve us up from the perimeter, and we're not going to have a chance to guard him. He's just a winner. He's super strong. He's a great post scorer. He can shoot pretty decently, and he can get downhill really well, and he plays so well as a member of a 5-person lineup. I love Cam Boozer. I think he's fantastic. I think he's the obvious number 3 pick in this year's draft behind Peterson and DeBanza. He is an absolute stud. If the game is close and Duke needs a bucket, they're going to go to Cam Boozer every single time. And if I were a betting man, I would put all my money on Cam Boozer coming through and delivering in the clutch because he really is just that type of player. He is so, so good. He was my preseason pick to win National Player of the Year, and it's looking like that pick is going to hit. But he is going up against Caleb Wilson, and Caleb Wilson is no pushover, let me tell you. He is extremely athletic. He can score really, really well on two levels. He's a great finisher at the bucket, and his mid-range game is phenomenal. He's not really completely developed that three-point shot quite yet. I think he's shooting 25% from the perimeter this season, but he's a great defender. To me, that's the most impressive part of Caleb Wilson's game is what he does on the defensive side of the basketball. So if UNC chooses to match him up with Cam Boozer when Duke has the basketball, it's going to be really interesting to see Cam Boozer going up against Caleb Wilson when Wilson's defending and when Cam Boozer's on offense. So I can't wait to see that if, in fact, we do get to see it. And if not, North Carolina can also counter Boozer with Henry Visar. Some teams have even started switching smaller guards onto Cam Boozer to take away his perimeter game. UNC maybe will go that way with Seth Trimble, but I don't really think so. But I mean, that being said, whatever happens in this game, it will be an amazing matchup to watch Caleb Wilson and to watch Cam Boozer and to see which one of these two young superstars proves themselves even more in this basketball game. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. But that being said, when I look at these two teams, for the most part, they're pretty even on the front court. They both have the superstar at the four who's going to score a lot. They're both averaging over 20 points per game, and they're both playing phenomenal, and they're both supported by really good, really athletic, really fun centers. You know, UNC obviously has Henry Visar. For as much credit as Caleb Wilson gets, I love Henry Visar so much. I think he's an absolute dog. He plays above the rim. He tries to dunk absolutely everything. He's great on defense. He's great with his feet. He doesn't foul all that much. I think he's an amazing player. And then Duke's got Patrick Ngungba. And that dude is an absolute athlete. Like, he can pretty much guard every position. Even though he's over 6'10", he's a machine. He's a monster. So, to me, the front courts are both great, but in a way they kind of offset each other. Like, I would be shocked if UNC completely out-rebounds Duke, or if Duke completely out-rebounds UFC, or not UFC, UNC. Like, I would be really surprised if that happens. So, in my opinion, even though all the talk about this game is on the front court, all of the conversation is around Cam Boozer and Caleb Wilson, I think that this game will be won and lost by the guards, by the backcourts of both of these teams, by their shot making, which backcourt is more clutch, which backcourt turns the ball over less, and which backcourt supports their bigs better. Because both of these teams, to me, that's the inconsistency. From the jump, when I was watching UNC, and the first time I watched them was when they played Kansas. And the second time I watched them was when they played Michigan State. And from the jump, the thing that I had about UNC that I didn't like was, yes, the front court is elite. Henry Visar and Caleb Wilson are both GOATs. But the backcourt is really not there to support them. The shot making's not great. They're not a great three-point shooting team. And frankly, Kyan Evans, their point guard, is not very elite. He's averaging 3 assists per game, which is, you know, it's all right. But that's not what you want from the starting point guard at UNC. You want him to have some command. You want him to have some trust in himself, some confidence. And frankly, Kyan Evans really just doesn't quite have that yet. Seth Trimble's been playing great recently. I think he's awesome in transition. He's really athletic. He's a great slasher. And his scoring has improved, for sure. But, you know, without that point guard, it just offense is a little bit harder to come by. And that's why UNC's efficiency numbers aren't super high. That's why a lot of people don't think UNC is going to make a deep run in the tournament. And that's, to me, their main weakness. It has to be their lack of explosiveness, their lack of consistency, and their lack of efficiency from the backcourt, from their guards. But, I mean, you know, backcourts win games. Like, who knows what's going to happen in this game? Maybe Kyan Evans randomly goes off. Maybe Seth Trimble drops 25. Maybe they get a big-time performance out of somebody else that's just sort of waiting in the rafters. So, who knows? Who knows if that's going to step up? But then on the other side, that's true for Duke as well. Cam Boozer's phenomenal. He is. Isaiah Evans is a great shooter. Pat Ngungba is amazing. Their defense is incredible. That's the most unsung part of this Duke team is how great their defense is. But at the same time, they don't really have a dominant point guard either. Like, their point guard play is very spotty and it's very inconsistent. You know, sometimes it's Caleb Foster, sometimes it's Caden Boozer. Most of the time it is Foster, and Foster can go off, just like he did at Louisville. Foster at sometimes can look like an amazing basketball player. He really can. But then at other times he's very inconsistent. He's not a great passer. He forces shots. He's just not the most consistent guy in the world. And same with Caden Boozer. And, you know, he's got great chemistry with Cam. They're both winners. They're both great. They play together really, really well. But at the same time, they're not as consistently dominant in the backcourt as you'd like them to be to support their superstar big Cam Boozer, who I said later this week is having the best season of any Duke freshman in my lifetime. So that being said, I think whichever backcourt steps up in this game, whichever one comes to play more, whichever one makes less mistakes and makes the most plays, in my opinion, that team is going to be the team that gives their squad the victory. And I'm taking Duke. For the main reason that I think their backcourt is going to travel defensively. Like I said, I mean, Duke's offense is great. It really is. Cam Boozer's a stud. And they can fly down the court and they can score. And Isaiah Evans is a great shooter. That being said, this Duke team, their identity is on the defensive side of the basketball court. It always has been under Jon Scheyer, and it always will continue to be as long as he's still there. I'm super excited to see Dame Sarr match up with Seth Trimble. I think that's going to be dynamite. It's going to be super fun to watch. And to me, I mean, Duke's defense is just they could all switch on to every position. They play with so much fluidness on defense, and I think that's just something that travels really, really well. And it's going to be really hard for UNC to score consistently. Could they get hot? Could they make a couple plays? Could Caleb Wilson go nuts? Could Henry Visar maybe tilt the rebounding battle, get some offensive boards, get some extra possessions? Maybe. But if I'm a betting man and I'm betting on this game, I'm taking Duke simply because I just trust their defense more than I trust anything from UNC. So that being said, biggest rivalry in college basketball, could be the best game on Saturday night. I'm taking the Duke Blue Devils to go on the road to Chapel Hill and continue their undefeated reign of terror over the Atlantic Coast Conference. It's a very sad thing to move on from this game because it's going to be epic to watch. We're going to do so, and we're going to look at the Friday night instant classic that we have in store. The UConn Huskies are going on the road to Madison Square Garden to take on the St. John's Johnnies. This is a matchup that we've been waiting for all offseason and all season long. I remember in the offseason, anything that, or the only thing that anyone could talk about when they were previewing the Big East was it's UConn and it's St. John's and it's everybody else. And I was here for it. I was so excited to see Dan Hurley and Rick Pitino, two guys that clearly don't like each other, two guys that are very different personalities, that coach basketball in complete opposite ways, but they're trying to act like they have respect for each other, and they're trying to act like in the media and in press conferences that they don't care as much about this game, and it's just another game and all this talk. We all know that's not true. We all know that Dan Hurley and Rick Pitino have been thinking about each other all summer long, waiting for this basketball game, waiting for a chance to prove that they're the best coach in the Big East and that their program is the dominant one in that conference. But starting the season off, UConn has been so much more consistent and so much better than St. John's. I mean, St. John's in non-conference play, they lost to Alabama at home. They lost to Auburn. They even lost to Providence at home. We all know how bad Providence is. So it's been a much rougher year for the Johnnies than it has been for the Huskies. But that being said, St. John's is hot. They really are. They have won 8 games in a row. They are on fire in the Big East. And I know UConn is 22-0, or they're 22-1. Their only loss was when they were very depleted. They had a lot of injuries at home against Arizona. And I know they're super hot. They're 12-0. They haven't lost a game at full strength all year long. But the Johnnies, man, they're turning the corner. They're starting to get back some of that 2025 momentum. And I think they're a lot of fun to watch. One thing you need to know about St. John's is they play fast. Even though they're a great defensive team, pretty much like what they're predicated off of, like what their identity is defense to offense. Like our offense is created by our great defense. They're all athletic. They play really well. Their guards are just flying around the field. They give so much effort on defense, whether it's Ian Jackson or Isaiah Sellers or even Dylan Darling at times, whoever it is, they are flying around the floor making plays. And that defense, that aggressiveness, that hostility is what leads to the offensive attack in fast breaks and etc. And also, another thing you have to note about St. John's is their front court. They have one of the best front courts in the country. Zuby Ejiofor and Bryce Hopkins are what provides consistency to the St. John's team. It's where they run their offense through because they don't have a point guard, which is ridiculous still. Rick Pitino, why did we not go get a point guard in the transfer portal? I know we tried, but man, oh man, you are reaping the benefits by having a very inefficient offense because of that. But, that aside, St. John's bigs are playing really well. Zuby Ejiofor, of course, is maybe the best big in all of the Big East. He probably is. And they're just a fun team to watch. I love the Johnnies. I love their mantra. I love that this is a big-time game in Madison Square Garden. Like, this is all that we could want from college basketball. It's the Big East. The Big East, there's always a new vibe about the Big East that's just so much more electric than the other conferences. and it's in MSG, the best arena in the world. And it's Dan Hurley and Rick Pitino and UConn and St. John's. I cannot wait to watch it. And it's just so great that St. John's is hot and they are, taking some positive momentum into this big time game. My question for St. John's, I've got a couple questions for them. A, can they rebound? Because UConn is a great rebounding team. Terrace Reed is awesome. UConn, they all hustle. They rebound a lot of their three-point misses. St. John's, you can't get in transition if you can't rebound. So they have to make sure they win the rebounding margin. At least don't let UConn get a bunch of second chance points if they want to win this game. And then also the next question I asked was, can they get out in transition? That sort of goes along with the rebounding thing, but can they force turnovers? An interesting stat about UConn. They are negative 1.8 in turnover differential this season, which is not in the top 50% of the Big East. So I think there's a good chance that St. John's can force some turnovers. And I think they can get out in transition. UConn's offense, it's not been very consistent this year. Silas Demery has been, in my opinion, great at times, disappointing at others. And because of that, UConn's been turning the ball over a little bit too much in certain games, just allowing their opponents to hang in it. If they turn the ball over a lot in Madison Square Garden against St. John's, things could get ugly because this game could speed up. It could go really fast. That is not what UConn wants. UConn wants to play slow. They are 310th in Division I in adjusted tempo, which means that they really want to play slow and they want to get into their half-court offense and grind it out. If St. John's is forcing turnovers and grabbing rebounds and getting out in transition, that might shake this UConn offense a little bit. So that's something to look out for. But on the other hand, UConn's defense is insane. It is out of its mind. It is playing so well right now. It is fifth in KenPom and defensive efficiency. They play really selfless on that end. They play really disciplined. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They push you off the three-point line, and they do a great job trapping bigs. It's something that I really realized about UConn's defense. They're phenomenal. They're really, really, really good. So that's something to keep in mind. If St. John's can't score on offense and they're completely relying on transition points, UConn's probably going to win. But that being said, I am so excited to watch this game. I hope it's really close. I hope it's a tight one going towards the end. And Madison Square Garden is getting super hyped and everything. And all of my mind, my basketball mind, my college basketball mind, everything that I've watched this year leads me to believe that I should be picking UConn in this game. I mean, they've got the experience. They've got the big-time shot making. They've got the defense. They've got the coach. How can I pick against UConn? I mean, this is an obvious pick. But I'm doing it. I'm taking St. John's. I'm riding with the Johnnies. I'm taking Pitino. They're called the Red Storm for a reason because they're red hot right now, and they're at home, and they're in front of MSG. I just feel like the vibes are so high right now. So I'm picking St. John's. I'm going with the Johnnies in this one. I think it's going to be really close. It's going to be really exciting. If you don't have plans Friday night, or if you do have plans Friday night, just make sure this is at least on in the background because it's going to be a phenomenal basketball game between the Huskies and the Red Storm. And my pick is St. John's, the Big East champions from last year. Also, winner of this game moves into first place in the Big East, I think. I don't really know how the standings quite work, but St. John's is 10-1 in conference. UConn is 12-0. And they do play again in Gamble Pavilion later on this season. But we're going to move on from the Big East now over to the Big 12. Late night tip Saturday night. I think it's 9:30 Central Time is when this game tips. Between Houston and BYU. Should be a really fun one. The Cougars are 20-2. BYU is 17-5. They are on a 2-game losing streak. They lost on the road against Kansas to Darren Peterson and company, and they just lost on the road to Oklahoma State versus Anthony Roy and company. Now, here's the thing. I remember I loved watching BYU so much last year. I thought they were so much fun. They played so unselfishly. They shared the ball. They passed it all the time. Every single player on their team, it felt like, could make big-time shots. None of them were playing selfless, or none of them were playing selfish, rather. They all were team-oriented. None of them wanted to play iso ball. None of them wanted all the glory for themselves. They just played good, stable, consistent, selfless basketball. And I really loved watching it. And Kevin Young didn't have the most talented roster in the world that year. But he took what he had, which wasn't very much, in his first year at BYU, and made the most out of it. But this year, it feels like the exact opposite. This year, he's got all the talent in the world. He has A.J. DeVanson, who's debatably the most talented player in college basketball. I think it's Darren Peterson, but they've got A.J. DeVanson. They've got Rob Wright, who's an NBA player. He's a fantastic point guard who can score the basketball really, really well. And, of course, they got Richie Saunders, who, in my opinion, is the clutchest one out of all of them. I love Richie Saunders. But that being said, with all the talent that Kevin Young has now, it feels like he's making the least of it. It's like the complete opposite of last year. I mean, BYU still does not have a big time win. They are 5-4 in the Big 12. I know the Big 12 is the best conference in college basketball, but come on, we all had bigger expectations for this team than being 5-4 in conference play, and they just lost 2 games back to back. One against Kansas, where they got absolutely smoked in the first half, and one against a lackluster Oklahoma State team who might make the tournament if they get a couple more big wins. But still, BYU, you are way more talented than Oklahoma State. I like Anthony Roy just as much as the next guy. But come on, man, we got a lottery pick on our team, BYU. We should not be losing that game. And the reason that I'm frustrated with BYU is because of their style of offense. It's all just ISO ball. It's all just we're going to give the ball to AJ DeVance, we're going to give the ball to Rob Wright, and they're going to go score. They're going to go get buckets against their one-on-one defenders. And I just think it's boring, and it's inconsistent. And, what if Rob Wright is off one game? What if AJ DeVance is off? What if the other team has a dynamite lockdown defender? Or what if you're playing Houston and their entire team is dominant lockdown defenders? That could be a problem. And I think just without the selflessness, without the fluidness of the offense, it just makes it stale, it makes it inconsistent, and it makes it a little hard to watch. And that is why BYU is 17-5. That is why they are 5-4 in conference, and that is why they are staring down the barrel of an 8 seed in March Madness, in my personal opinion. It could very well happen. I think that is where we are headed. And they are going up against Houston, and that has not been a recipe for success for this BYU team the last couple of years. They played Houston twice last year, and they lost twice by a combined 51 points. They lost by 20 points in the regular season, and then by 31 in the Big 12 tournament. So this has not been great for Kevin Young when he's had to go up against Kelvin Sampson. Houston is so good defensively. They are absolutely amazing. The only team that has been able to crack the code of Houston's defense this year has been Texas Tech, and that has taken a perfect performance in the first half. I don't see that from BYU. I think Houston's going to win this game by 20. I don't think it's going to be very close. I know it is in Provo. I don't think that matters. I think Houston's defense is going to absolutely smother the lame ISO ball that you're going to see from BYU. And I'm taking Houston's offense to go off against the BYU's defense, mainly because BYU's front court, in my opinion, is pretty weak. I think Houston's going to dominate the boards. I think they're going to get a lot of second chance points. I think Chris Senack and JoJo Tugler are going to go crazy in this game if they're not in foul trouble. So, yeah, I think Houston's going to dominate this game. I still think Houston has an argument to be one of the best teams in college basketball, and I think they're going to prove it in this game at BYU on Saturday night. Should be a lot of fun, honestly, for Houston fans, but not for BYU fans. If you're a BYU fan, don't watch this game because I really do think it's going to be a blowout, and I'm taking the Cougars to win by a landslide. So, whose house? Cougs' house. We all know that Provo, Utah is basically Cougs' house. Cougs House West. My bad. I'm sorry. I'm a little tired tonight. Moving on to the Big Ten. We've got ourselves a huge game. This is how you know it's such a great weekend in college basketball, by the way, that the fourth game I'm talking about is a top 10 matchup. Illinois at Michigan State. I just love this sport so much. It's so phenomenal. Every single Saturday is so egregiously loaded with so many amazing games, including this one, including the Illini going on the road at the Spartans. Talk about a different culture matchup here. Illinois is such a good offensive team. They're flying around. They're on fire. They're great shooters. That's what they're predicated off of. They're a lot of fun. And then you go to look at Michigan State, and they're a great defensive team. They try and grind games out. They play really slow. Just two completely different styles of basketball, butting heads in East Lansing. And also, you got Michigan State, who's kind of ice cold right now. They've lost 2 in a row, and they've had 3 below expectation performances, I would say, in their last 3 games. Illinois, on the other hand, is absolutely on fire. They won at Purdue. They won at Nebraska. And they just committed a hate crime on Northwestern. I believe they won that game 84-44, which, you should arrest him. Like, honestly, Brad Underwood should be arrested for that. 84-44 is absolutely insane. That's what they did to Northwestern, a team that almost beat Michigan State early this season, by the way. But this should be an interesting game for sure. There was a lot of Jeremy Fears drama tonight. If you didn't see it, Jeremy Fears was playing defense on Minnesota in their game, and he sort of kicked a Minnesota's basketball's spot on their body where they don't want to get kicked. That's all I'll say about that. Whether it was intentional, whether it was accidental, I'll let you decide. Just look up the video. I think it was maybe slightly intentional, but Tom Izzo addressed it after the game. He said, yeah, Jeremy, shouldn't have really done that. We might not even start him next game. And then continue to say how much he loves Jeremy Fears. I think Jeremy Fears is spectacular. I think he's the second best point guard in the Big Ten. I think he's unbelievable. Despite Michigan State not playing well over the last 4 games, Jeremy Fears has had 17 points and 17 assists, a career high 29 points, a new career high 31 points against the best defense in college basketball, and then a double-double tonight with 10 points and 11 assists. So despite the rest of the team around Jeremy Fears struggling and not knowing how to make a shot and not knowing how to support a superstar point guard, Jeremy Fears is still going off. He's still playing great basketball, even though there's a lot of things going on around him. So in my opinion, the problem with this Michigan State team is not Jeremy Fears. The problem with this Michigan State team is they have such an unbelievably good passer at point guard who provides so much consistency to the offense, who can facilitate so well to other shot makers around the floor. And yet, despite that, the other shot makers around the floor for Michigan State aren't making shots. To me, it's just that simple. And I know Jordan Scott had a great closing effort against Minnesota on the road on Wednesday night to try and win that game, and that was awesome. But the other guys, like Jackson Kohler, hasn't done anything in so long, it feels like. Cohen Carr has been great, but he's not a big-time shot maker. He's great in transition. That's just not what they need. Like, they just don't have the shot makers. So that's something that's really interesting about this Michigan State team that, in my opinion, needs to improve if they want to be elite, if they want to make a big run in March, if they want to be talked about in the same breath as Illinois, in the same breath as Michigan, in the same breath as even teams like Nebraska. To me, that's just not really quite where they are yet. That's what needs to improve. And they're going up against an Illinois team that is absolutely on fire. They're looking like one of the best teams in college basketball. Illinois seriously looks like they can make a deep run into March. They have the #1 offense on KenPom. So that basically means their offense is more efficient than anybody's in the country. It's led by Keaton Wagler, who is playing out of his mind. He has played himself from recruit number 150 this year. He's a true freshman, by the way. He's played himself from recruit number 150 on 24/7 Sports to a top 10 lottery draft pick for this next year. He is out of his mind. He's a great shooter. He's a great scorer, can score at all 3 levels. He can do it on the road against top 5 teams. He can do it on the road against top 5 teams a week later. He's unreal. He is so good. And he wasn't even supposed to be the best player on this team coming into the year. A lot of people still consider him to be just a piece of what makes Illinois so amazing. I think he's more than that. I think he's phenomenal. But he's surrounded by so many great guys, too. The Ivisic brothers are both amazing. Tomislav Ivisic is fully healthy, and a fully healthy Tomislav Ivisic is terrifying to go up against, especially on the defensive side of the floor. Andrej Stojakovic is unbelievable. Kylan Boswell is playing better and better. It feels like he's sort of molding into his role on this team. He's playing really, really well. And this whole Illinois team as a unit is playing awesome. So I am not going to pick against Illinois. I think they are way too good. I'm trusting their offense going up against the stout Michigan State defense. If there's a chance Michigan State has of winning this game, they have to do it by stifling the Illinois offense somehow, by shot making on the other side to keep up with that offense, and by getting themselves second chances and extra possessions by dominating on the boards. I think that's possible. I would not be shocked if Michigan State won this game, but I would be surprised if they do it by absolutely shutting down Illinois' offense, because Illinois' offense is just too good. It is absolutely unstoppable right now. So I'm taking the Illini to win this one on the road, getting another big-time road win. I mean, this is the 3rd time in the span of 3 weeks that Illinois has gone on the road against a top 10 team. And if they can go 3-0 in that stretch, we are seriously looking at a team that could possibly contend for a 1 seed and might just go ahead and win the Big Ten. So I love Illinois. I think they're a lot of fun to watch. They're so much more consistent than last year. And I'm taking the Illini to get a big-time victory over Sparty. How about the Iron Bowl? My goodness, the 5th game I'm talking about, the 5th biggest game in this Saturday slate of college basketball games is Alabama and Auburn. That's how you know it's going to be an epic day on Saturday. This is one of the best rivalries in SEC basketball. I know that historically these two programs haven't been the best in the world, but recently Alabama and Auburn have been 2 of the powerhouses in this conference, and every time they square off against each other, it's a lot of fun. I love watching it. It's a very, very good time. And this year, it should be nuts. Of course, they play each other twice. First matchup is in Neville Arena. They call it the Jungle in Auburn. It's a small place, but they pack in a bunch of students. They're right on top of you, and they're really, really loud, and they will be really, really hostile in this game, especially towards Aiden Holloway. And then they play one more time at the very end of the year in Coleman Coliseum at Alabama. So this is their first matchup, and it's going to be a doozy. I think these two teams are two of the most unpredictable teams in all of college basketball. Both of these offenses at times can be electric. Alabama has a really, really high rating on offensive efficiency on KenPom. I think they're third in the country in offensive efficiency. Auburn, I think, might even be top 10. They're definitely top 12. But these two teams' defenses are really struggling. Like, they both struggle a lot to defend at a high rate. Effort-wise on that end of the floor, it's not always the best. But their offenses can both go nuts at any given time. And with Auburn, I look at Auburn's offense, and the main factor, the main key, the main point of emphasis for this Auburn offense is Keyshawn Hall. Will Keyshawn Hall go off? That seems to be the question every single week that I ask myself when I'm watching Auburn. Yeah, they're great. Yes, Keyshawn Hall can drop 20 points and a half if he wants to. But sometimes he just disappears from games. And you don't see him, and he gets shut down. So much hinges, for me, in my personal opinion, on whether or not Keyshawn Hall shows up in this game and plays big. Similarly with Todd Pettiford. Todd Pettiford sometimes can go 6 for 10 from 3. And you're sitting there and you're like, dang, this guy's one of the best guards in the country. And then the next game, he has 7 turnovers. And you're like, where did this guy go? You're like, who is this guy? I was watching Todd Pettiford last week. Who are you? I'm going to take a quick sip of water real quick. I need to replenish my fluids. So Alabama, on the other hand, is also very similar to that. LeBaron Philon at times can play like the best guard in the country, straight up. He can get to any spot that he wants to. He's a great knockdown shooter. He's very clutch. He's gotten way better on defense. And then at times, such as the Florida game, he can turn the ball over 8 times. And you're like, goodness gracious, what's going on? Where's the consistency? Same with Alabama. Alabama started to give all their point guard responsibilities over to Aiden Holloway, the former Auburn Tiger, because he just seems a little more consistent. Of course, he had an amazing game tonight against A&M. Hit a huge, huge shot late in that game to really catapult Alabama to win. But I'm having a really hard time predicting this game because frankly, I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't think anyone has any idea what's going to happen in this game because both these teams are so unpredictable. They're also so random in the front court. I think if anything, Alabama has an advantage in the front court in this game, which is crazy to say because Alabama's front court is not very elite. But they do have a 23-year-old G League player on their team, so that does help. But that being said, I do think that if I'm picking any game for Keyshawn Hall and Todd Pettiford to show up for, it's this game. It has to be. I mean, you're hosting Alabama at home. Todd Pettiford knows how big of a game this is. He's played in it twice already in his career. And I just think that Keyshawn Hall and Todd Pettiford are going to play their best in this game. They're at home. It's a big-time rivalry game. It's a big one in the SEC, too. The loser of this game falls to 5-5 in conference play. So I'm taking Keyshawn Hall and Todd Pettiford to play their best game of the year, to ball out, especially against a Tide defense that is very inconsistent. And I'm taking Auburn to win at home with the support of their fans, with Keyshawn Hall, and with Todd Pettiford. This game should be really fun. I think it's going to be high scoring. I think it's going to be back and forth. Hopefully it doesn't get too scrappy and too foul-y, but I'm taking Auburn to win maybe like 90-85. And I think it's going to be an awesome game. MVP of this game will be Keyshawn Hall if Auburn wins, for sure. Another big-time game in the SEC. This one is going to be really fun, too. In College Station, in Reed Arena, the Texas A&M Aggies, fresh off a heartbreaking loss to the Crimson Tide, will take on the Florida Gators, who are fresh off an absolutely joyful, amazing victory over the Crimson Tide. Both these teams are 7-2 in conference with the Aggies loss on Wednesday night. These two teams are tied for the conference lead. A&M has a little bit of a better record, but Florida has much better wins. This is an awesome game. I'm really excited to watch this game. I think it could be really high scoring. Both these teams, I think, have very large advantages over the other. So I don't really know which advantage is going to be more important. And the advantage that Florida has over A&M is their front court, right? I mean, Florida has one of the best front courts in the country. They're the best rebounding team in the country. Their defense in the paint is unreal. Like, no one can score in the paint on this Florida team. They suffocate you. They get so many second chance points. They out-rebound everyone. They out-physical everyone. And they out-effort everyone in the paint on the front court with Tommy Hauck, with Ruben Chenyalu, who's the only guy in the SEC averaging a double-double, with Micah Ham locked in, and with Alex Condon. They are so good at that end of the floor. And A&M is very small. They do have AG is their leading scorer. He's like 6'8". And they have Federico. They have number 5 with the long hair. I forget his name. So they have some height, but that's really not their strength. Zach Clements is pretty good too, but A&M should get bullied down low by Florida. I 100% believe that. Florida will definitely have the rebounding edge in this game, which will help them get second chance buckets. They'll get extra possessions, and I think they're really going to control the game from that standpoint. So that's the advantage that Florida has over A&M. But the advantage that A&M has over Florida is buckyball. Like, buckyball is such a unique style of play. If you haven't watched A&M basketball this year, you don't know what I'm talking about. But buckyball is basically we're going to press all game. We're going to play in your face. And basically we're going to try and force turnovers all that we can. Like, on any given scenario, we're going to try and get in your face and force turnovers no matter what. And that means that your guards have to play really careful with the basketball, and they have to play good basketball. I think that's why Alabama was so successful against A&M, is Alabama's guards are great. It's the best part of their team. Philon and Holloway are their 2 best players. But when you look at Florida, their guard play has been really inconsistent this year. It's led to turnovers. Boogie Fland and Xavier Lee, their shot making has not quite been there. And that's another thing. Buckyball leads to a lot of open threes pretty much all the time. Because since they're playing in your face so much and they're pressuring you and they're trying to get you to force turnovers, that leads to open space down floor. And because of that, you're going to get a lot of three-point shots up. But Florida is not an elite three-point shooting team. So I look at Florida and I say, okay, their guards aren't great. Well, A&M's going to pressure them. They might force some turnovers. They might get some easy buckets. And I say, well, that could be a problem then because Florida's going to have some open shots. Well, Florida's not a great shooting team either. So I really think that buckyball gives A&M a big advantage in this game. It keeps them in it. But to me, I'm asking the question of which advantage is more important. Florida's front court domination over A&M, or is it A&M's chaos and ownership of the pace of this game and the potential outcome of that being Florida turning the ball over a lot and struggling to shoot? I think it's very back and forth. It's a tough game to pick. It is on the road. A&M's got home field advantage, but I am taking Florida to win this game because I just trust that front court more. I think if Florida gets the ball into the half court, the possession is pretty much over because their bigs are just too good. So I am taking Florida in this game. I think it's going to be very, very entertaining, very high scoring. So I'm going to take the Gators like 95-85. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think Tommy Hauck is going to have some amazing highlights in this game. And I think A&M is going to hit a lot of big-time shots to keep themselves in it. But at the end of the day, conference supremacy in the SEC will go to the Florida Gators after this game. You heard it here first. Unless A&M wins by 30, then just forget that I said that. Which will probably happen to me, given my luck predicting college basketball games. That concludes it for the SEC for the what am I trying to say? For the weekend preview. We're gonna hop over to the Atlantic Coast Conference, which is taking place in the state of California on Saturday night, which is still weird, still something we're all getting used to, as number 20 Clemson, fresh off a sketchy win at Syracuse, or not at Syracuse, at Stanford, is now taking on the Cal Bears on the road. It's a lot of travel for Clemson. From Clemson, they got to play Stanford, and then they got to play Cal, and then they got to come back for Clemson. That's quite a couple of plane rides, let me tell you. But this is pretty much, this is a much bigger game for Cal than it is for Clemson, in my opinion, because this is the last time Cal is going to play a ranked team all season long. The rest of their schedule is very easy. They're kind of on the bubble right now. They're definitely outside the field as we speak, but they need a big-time win. That's what they need. And it's either going to come against Clemson tomorrow or on Saturday night, or it's going to come in the ACC tournament. And if it comes in the ACC tournament, that might be too little too late. So I think this is a huge moment for Cal. They have to get this win, in my opinion, if they really want to make a push to make the NCAA tournament. It's at home. It's against a good Clemson team. And I just think they have to have it. I think it's really important that they get it. But unfortunately, they're going up against a Clemson team that is very consistent, in my opinion. They're a great defensive team. They have a great front court. They kind of control the pace of games. They pressure the ball. Their guards have a lot of length. And they just they play really good defense. The only problem with Clemson, in my opinion, is their shot making late in games. I watched the Clemson Stanford game just now. That was an ugly finish to watch. It was both teams really struggling to make shots. Stanford was trying to go to Emeka Okori, and Clemson's defense shut him down. Clemson, I don't even know what they were trying to do on offense, but it wasn't working. So if this is a close game towards the end of the game on the road Saturday night in Cal, I could see them potentially making big time shots towards the end of the game, whether it's Justin Pippen or Dai Ames, whichever guy it is that wants to step up and make big time shots. I trust Cal to do that more than Clemson. But at the end of the day, I think I'm still going to pick Clemson because of their defensive consistency. I think they're going to make things really hard on Cal's front court. They should dominate the boards. They should play better. And I'm taking Clemson to go on the road or more on the air in the plane to beat the Cal Bears in their own backyard. Next thing I'm going to talk about Tennessee and Kentucky. I guess we're not done with the SEC yet. The Vols are taking on the Wildcats once again on Saturday night. I think this is the 7:30 Central Time tip. Should be a really fun game. Kentucky has won the last 4 regular season matchups against Tennessee. So the Wildcats have kind of owned Rick Barnes in the regular season over the last couple of years, which is really weird considering how great Tennessee has been in the regular season over that time span. I think these two teams are so different stylistically, but they're so similar in resume. And what I mean by that is, of course, they're two completely different teams. Tennessee likes to slow the game down. They play great defense. They suffocate you. They play really scrappy. They got a lot of effort, a lot of Rick Barnes-esque coaching, and then they score based off of, getting the right switch for Nadal Mint and letting him cook, for getting Jacoby Gillespie good looks off pick and rolls, that sort of thing. Kentucky's different. Kentucky likes to play fast. They like to shoot really, really well, and they score based more off of just having belief and confidence in themselves and making big-time shots. And the defense is just kind of an afterthought sometimes. So very different teams stylistically, but resume-wise, they both have the same record in the SEC. Tennessee just has one more win. They're 16-6. Kentucky's 15-7. Kentucky's 4-6 in quad one. Tennessee is 5-6 in quad one, so they're very similar there. I just feel like these two teams, even though it seems like they're having completely different seasons, they're a lot more similar than really what we believe. The only thing that's separating them is, frankly, Kentucky's lost to Missouri. If they had beat Missouri at home, these two teams would be pretty much identical in their resumes. But I hate picking this game. I really do. I hate picking any Kentucky game because Kentucky makes absolutely no sense. Legitimately. I mean, there's no telling what they're going to do on any given night. They literally don't make any sense at all whatsoever. So I would prefer not even to pick this game, if I'm being completely honest with you, because whatever happens, I know that I'm just going to be wrong. Oh, sorry. I got a little bit of cough going. That being said, I am taking Kentucky for one main reason. I'm picking Kentucky to win this game because finally, Otega-Oweh seems to have woken up. It's been so long. He's been dormant. He's been dead. He's been asleep all season long. But against Arkansas on the road and against Oklahoma on Wednesday night, he finally has woken up. He's playing well. He's taking control of this Kentucky team. When it's the fourth quarter and they need a big-time shot, they're finally starting to look his way, and he's finally starting to deliver. So I'm really happy about that for Kentucky, and I think that's the reason why I'm going to trust them a little bit more than Tennessee and pick them to win this game. But the winner of this game gets a big-time win. They sort of catapult themselves to 7-3 in the SEC, which, if you look at the SEC standings, that's going to be like third in the conference. Loser of this game seeps down to 6-4. They'll have much more work to do, regaining some traction and getting back towards the top. So this is an important game. I'm taking Kentucky at home, and I'm taking them because of Otega-Oweh. That's really the main reason. Next thing I'm going to talk about, another big-time bubble matchup. This is what's so great about February and the last month of college basketball is bubble basketball. Teams that are on the bubble need big-time wins. Every single game matters so much because they're trying to make sure that they're in the NCAA tournament. Indiana and Wisconsin are in kind of similar places in this right now. Indiana has the big win against Purdue. Wisconsin has the big win against Michigan. But they both have some not great losses. Indiana is definitely higher in the net right now than Wisconsin. They were looking better resume-wise. Despite the records, they just have better wins and worse losses, or not as bad losses. That being said, this game should be fascinating. I'm really excited to watch it. Wisconsin is another team that is so unpredictable because John Blackwell and Nick Boyd, if they're playing at their peak, they can be unstoppable. That's what we saw against Michigan. They went up against Michigan. Michigan's the best defense in the country on paper. And Wisconsin just came in there, and Blackwell and Boyd were playing at their peak. And in the fourth quarter, they could not be stopped by anybody. And then they'll turn around and they'll play Minnesota and they'll lay an absolute egg. Like, that'll just happen with this Wisconsin team. They're really unpredictable. It's really hard to figure out when they're big-time guys, when Boyd and Blackwell are going to go crazy, or when they're going to go 3 for 10 from the field and not do anything. Indiana, on the other hand, is a little bit more predictable. But that being said, I am going with Wisconsin. I think it'd be really fun if Wisconsin wins. I'm kind of cheering for Wisconsin. I think they're really fun to watch. I love John Blackwell. I would be happy if Wisconsin makes the tournament, if they go on a run and find a way to play themselves into that position. I think they're just a really fun team. So I'm picking Wisconsin. This is more of an emotional pick than it is anything else. And it's nothing against Indiana basketball. I'm a big fan of Indiana football. I think they're awesome. And Indiana basketball, they've not been playing up to their standards the last 2 decades, but still, they're a really fun team to watch. I think they should be in the tournament. I think they will be in the tournament. But I just do really love Wisconsin. So I hope they get that win. And now we have to talk a little ACC basketball. Virginia Tech and NC State. NC State is playing so good. NC State was my dark horse Final Four team at the beginning of the season, which looked like a rough prediction to start. It really did. But now it's sort of gaining some traction. I don't think that's accurate to their record and their ACC record. I'm going to look that up. I might have made a mistake there. NC State basketball record. Bear with me for a second while I look that up. But NC State, basically, they're on fire. They've gotten a lot of big-time wins. They are 17-6, and they are 8-2 in conference play, not 6-6, or not 5-5. They are 8-2, which is really high up on the ACC standings. They're playing great. They got a big road win against SMU. Week before, they got a big road win against Clemson. They're playing great basketball. They can beat almost anybody in the ACC, it seems like. We'll see what happens when they play Duke. But Darian Williams, I think, is the main reason for that. He's the main catalyst for this big-time success for NC State. He's a guy that got in the portal who was like the number 1 rated portal acquisition for any team other than PJ Haggerty. And he's kind of been dormant this year so far. He hasn't stepped up, hasn't been the guy that we knew that he was at Texas Tech. But now it's sort of feeling that he's kind of finally trying to get his momentum back. And then Quadir Copeland has been unreal at NC State. He transferred with Will Wade from McNeese to NC State. He had like 15 assists last game or something like that against SMU. Absolutely balled out. So it's a big-time NC State team that's looking better and better. It's looking like they're starting to play their best ball at the right time. And they could peak in March. And they could still be a dark horse Final Four candidate if they get the right run. I'd be shocked if they make it all the way to the Final Four, but they're a fun team that I'll be cheering for. And Virginia Tech needs a big win. They've gotten close to it. They were in the game close with Duke last Saturday. They've already got a big-time win against Virginia in triple overtime at home. This would be a big-time one. On the road, though, against NC State would be another quad 1 win for them. They need to start getting some wins. They're 5-5 in the ACC. They need to start improving that record to improve their at-large bid, and this is a great opportunity for them to do so. Sliding over to mid-majors now. I love mid-major basketball so much. It's so much fun to watch. And to follow. Miami, Ohio, undefeated 23-0. They're going on the road to take on Marshall. And you might be thinking to yourself, Robert, Miami's in the MAC, Marshall's in the Sun Belt. Why are these 2 teams playing each other? Well, because it is the MAC Sun Belt Challenge, which I think is fantastic. Every single Miami, Ohio game is much-watched basketball from this point out. They should beat Marshall. Both these teams are very low on KenPom. Miami, I don't think, is a very big contender to make much noise in March. I just don't think they're very good. They're a lot of fun. They're a great story. They're undefeated. I just think they're a little overrated right now, and I think there are much better mid-major teams out there. But that being said, I will be cheering for Miami, Ohio until they lose. I think it's an amazing story. I think it would be awesome if they're the last undefeated team and not Arizona, just because it'd be kind of funny. And I think this game's going to be really entertaining. I'm excited to watch it. Give me Miami for sure. But Marshall's not a bad team either. They are 11-2 in conference. This could be a fun game to watch for sure. My real sleeper, my real big, of course, the best mid-major in the country is easily St. Louis. It's not even close. They're so good. I might even pick them to make the Final Four. But Belmont, watch out for Belmont. Belmont is good. They're like 59th in KenPom. They're not going to get an at-large bid because they don't have a quad 1 game. They're 0-0 in quad 1. They haven't played a quad 1 game yet. But they are 21-3. They're 11-2 in conference. They're playing really, really good basketball. They have a guy by the name of, Nick McLean, the point guard, averaging 10.4 points and 6.3 assists per game, while also shooting 44% from the 3. This is part of the reason why this team is 45th in the nation in offensive efficiency, which is really high for a mid-major. They're playing really well on the offensive side of the ball, and a lot of that is because of the consistency provided by their point guard, Nick McLean. They also have a lot of high effort, and they're a great rebounding team all around. They play together. They play with a lot of tenacity. They play with a lot of aggressiveness. They're hostile, and they're a great rebounding team. I think they're fun to watch. They've got UIC this weekend on the road. UIC is not bad. They're 8-3 in conference. This should be an interesting game for Belmont. I'm excited to watch it, or at least keep tabs on it while watching other games. But if you want a big major that I think is potentially going to make a run in March, that could potentially get a couple upsets, keep your eye on Belmont, the Bruins. They're a great offensive team. They got a great point guard. But that being said, that's pretty much all I got for you tonight. Thanks so much for watching. If you're still watching, that is amazing. That must mean you really, really love college basketball, which means I think you're an absolute legend because college basketball is my favorite sport. So if there's one thing you take away from this video, it's not that I love Belmont or that my voice is almost gone or that I love the Texans even though I do. But let it be that God loves you, and God has you. We all search for peace on this world, and whatever it is, whether it's in rest or in the comfort of others or in whatever it may be, we are all searching for peace. But I just want each and every one of you to know that true peace is found in God, no matter what, no matter who you are, where you are, what you're doing, who you're with. And this is not me trying to say that I'm better than any of y'all. I am not. In fact, I'm a sinner just as much as everybody else is. But I have found in my life experience that peace is found in God, always. And that is something that is always going to be fundamentally true for me in my journey. And it should be for all of you and yours too, because it is a comforting thought. And just an example of that, the Israelites, when they left Egypt to go to the promised land, there were 2 million of them, and they didn't have any provisions. Nothing. They didn't have any food, any water, anything. Just 2 million people journeying throughout a desert in Africa, trying to get to the quote unquote promised land. How did they do it? They did it with faith in their Lord and God, and they had trust that He was going to bring them peace. And that is where peace is found. Peace isn't found in provisions. It's not found in food and water and others and all these things. It is found in God. So we just have faith and trust that He will grant us peace if we choose Him. He will. And that's pretty much the journey of our lives. So again, thanks so much for watching. I'm praying for each and every one of you every single day. And if you don't know how to start your relationship with God, just pray for me because I need it. Just say, Lord, help Robert out and help me out and help my family out. That's perfect. That's God will be so happy that you do that. And he will not love you more because He already loves you more than you could possibly comprehend. But that will just make Him happier than almost anything ever could. So again, thanks so much for watching. I hope you all have a great weekend. I hope you watch some college basketball. Stay safe. Go Patriots. I'm going to cheer for the Patriots because of my boy Cole Bissett. But I will see y'all later. And I will be glued to my screen watching college basketball this weekend more so than NFL football, which is a rarity, but it exists in this great country. So once again, I'll see y'all later. Have a great weekend. And that's it for me tonight.